Hey, it's Mark Evans from ME Consulting. So your website is a dog's breakfast. It's ugly, it hasn't been touched in several years since your sister's niece, who knew a little bit about WordPress and HTML, decided to build a website for you. So you're thinking, you know what, I want to rebuild this thing from scratch. I'm going to tear the whole thing down and I'm going to come out with a fresh, new and exciting website. Now for personal experience, it sounds really good, but remember, rebuilding a website involves a lot of time. It can take weeks or months to actually get a website from start to finish. You got to create content, you got to design it, you got to develop. So there's a lot of moving parts. So the decision to rebuild your website is a big one. So you need to think about 3 things before you launch into a full-blown website redesign. Number 1, is your existing website broken? Now, a lot of people say, well, my website's ugly, but that doesn't mean it's not working. So you have to look at your Google Analytics to see if you're getting traffic, and as important, are people doing what you want them to do? So if they visit your website and they actually buy things, well, maybe your website's working. If they're looking at a lot of content and downloading white papers or reading blog posts, maybe your website's working. So it's important to look at your website's objectives and whether people are doing what you want them to do. If they are, then maybe it doesn't need a redesign, maybe it needs a little TLC. So it could be you could sharpen up your value propositions and your messaging. So when people come to your website, they know exactly what you do, they know who you serve, and they know what the benefits are. Or you can improve your call to action. Maybe you're not being prominent enough in telling people, well, I want you to click on this button to look at this information or to download this white paper or to read this content or to buy this product. So look at your CTAs and say to yourself, am I really being bold enough? Am I providing enough guidance so people know what to do? So remember, on the web, people are lazy. They scan, they don't read. So unless you're putting things in front of their faces, they're not going to do it. And the third thing to think about is how much of a commitment are you willing to make to redesign your website? Now it comes down to cash. Now it could range from a few $1,000s to $20,000 depending on the complexity of your website and what you're doing. If you have an e-commerce website, obviously that's going to be more expensive. The second thing is going to be time commitment. For a lot of entrepreneurs, this is huge because you have to be engaged in the project. You have to be engaged in the content. You have to be engaged in the design. From personal experience, design is a very subjective kind of thing. So what I may think as good design, you as the entrepreneur would look at and go, that's not my brand. That's not how I want to present my company to the public. And that can take a lot of time to develop. And the third part is whether you have the partners in place, whether it's a website developer or a designer and a content creator, and you have the manpower or the time to manage all these pieces. So the bottom line is that redesign your website sounds good in concept, but the reality is actually quite different. It requires you to make an investment in money and time and people. And so what I want you to think about is take a deep breath before you say, I'm going to tear this house down and rebuild from scratch. Think about whether your website's actually broken or whether it just needs a new coat of paint. I'll talk to you soon.